Buckle up, everyone, because today is a wild one in the AI world. So much news, so many potential shifts. It's hard to know where to even begin.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
Let's start with what might be the biggest story, at least for the markets. This new Chinese AI startup, DeepSeek. They're really shaking things up with their new model. Super cost-effective and high-performing, even compared to the giants.
It's massive, honestly. I mean, they're going head-to-head with OpenAI, Meta, all the big names. And the thing is, their model doesn't need the crazy expensive hardware the others rely on.
Which is probably why NVIDIA stock took such a huge hit.
Yeah.
Right, down 15% as soon as this news broke.
Makes sense. If DeepSeek can deliver the same power but cheaper, well, a lot of assumptions about the AI industry go right out the window.
I even saw that crypto stocks, the mining ones especially, got caught in the downdraft too.
Yeah, because they're so tied to needing NVIDIA's top-of-the-line chips. But DeepSeek's whole approach is different. They're open source. Anyone can see their code, modify it even. That levels the playing field in a way we haven't seen before.
So instead of just a few companies controlling the cutting edge, it's more open, more competitive, globally even.
Exactly. Though speaking of those big companies, OpenAI didn't just sit back today. They announced their operator program.
Oh yeah, the AI that can actually use a web browser. Like do stuff for you online.
Right, like booking your flights, handling those expense reports nobody likes doing, even ordering your groceries.
It's a huge step towards AI really interacting with the world in a way we haven't seen before.
It is, but it makes you think, how comfortable are we really with delegating all that to an AI?
That's a big question. And speaking of big questions, over at Davos, AI ethics were front and center.
Even the Pope weighed in on it, saying we have to use this technology responsibly, put human dignity and the common good first.
And from what I saw, a lot of the talks focused on how AI could make inequality even worse if we're not careful.
It's true, all this potential, but if it just benefits the few or even harms those already struggling, that's a huge problem.
It makes you wonder about DeepSeek even. Will making AI more accessible actually lead to a fairer world? Or could it end up making things worse in ways we don't expect?
It's tough to say. We need to watch this very closely. But let's shift gears a bit, talk about healthcare. AI is making some incredible progress there, particularly on the diagnostic side.
Yeah, some of the stuff I read was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like outperforming human doctors at reading brain scans and stuff.
There's this new AI software out of the UK. It's twice as accurate as human experts at analyzing stroke patient scans.
Wow, twice as good. That's incredible. Imagine what that means for patients.
It could mean faster diagnosis, better treatment plans, potentially even saving lives, and can make those advanced tools more available cheaper too, especially in places that can't afford the best doctors all the time.
That's the ideal outcome for sure. But we have to make sure these AI systems are fair, right? Not biased against certain groups of people.
Couldn't agree more. Huge responsibility to get that right. Speaking of responsibility, AI and climate change, what a complex relationship that is.
Right. It can be a powerful tool, but also a potential contributor to the problem.
Exactly. On the one hand, AI can help us monitor deforestation, track icebergs, predict weather more accurately, even make energy usage more efficient.
I was reading how in Africa, AI is being used to predict weather patterns, which is crucial for communities that are really vulnerable to climate change.
That's amazing. But on the other hand, AI needs a lot of computing power, which means lots of energy consumption, more emissions.
So it's like a double-edged sword. We need to make sure these AI systems are as energy efficient as possible if we want to use them to actually combat climate change and not make it worse.
Absolutely. Can't just ignore that side of the equation. Now let's talk about AI getting creative. We've got AI-generated art, music, even literature.
It's really making us think about what creativity even means, right? Like, can an algorithm be an artist?
And then the legal side, who owns the copyright to AI-generated works? It's a whole new world of questions.
One thing's for sure. The lines are getting blurry between what humans create and what AI can do. But let's move on to education, where AI is showing real promise for personalized learning.
Imagine every student having lessons tailored just for them based on how they learn best, what they're struggling with. AI can do that.
And it's not just for students who are falling behind. It can help high achievers push even further, too. Everyone benefits.
Absolutely. Though, again, we have to make sure these systems don't create new inequalities or worsen the ones that already exist.
Yeah, we have to get the implementation right. Which leads us to, well, the less pleasant side of AI. The potential for misuse is there, no doubt about it.
We're talking psychological manipulation, autonomous weapons, deepfakes, spreading misinformation. It's scary stuff.
And it's already happening. I saw reports of AI-generated voice scams, and these targeted disinformation campaigns are getting harder and harder to detect.
So yeah, along with all this potential for good, we need strong safeguards, regulations even, to make sure these darker applications don't get out of control.
Let's take a breath for a second before we go deeper into that. Some quick hits, other news from today. Anthropic. They're adding citations to their Claude AI.
That's big for transparency. People can see where Claude's getting its information, which helps with fact-checking and fighting bias.
And FreePic, the platform for creatives, they're integrating Google's Imagen 3.
So now you can use one of the best text-to-image AI models right within FreePic. Pretty cool for designers.
And CES 2025 just wrapped up. Tons of AI stuff there, obviously.
True.
Smarter TVs, personal robots, self-driving cars getting even better, and NVIDIA unveiled their new supercomputer.
That one's going to push AI research even further, no doubt about it. And all this activity, it's reflected in the global AI power rankings. Still the US on top, followed by China and the UK.
And that's because the US has such a strong AI ecosystem, right? Tons of research, investment, and the infrastructure to support it all.
Exactly. But China is catching up fast, so it's a race to watch for sure.
All right, that was a lot to cover, and we've only just begun.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into some of the less obvious, but still super important ways AI is changing the world. Back again for more AI craziness.
I don't think my brain can handle much more, honestly. But the thing is, it's not just the big headline stuff we talked about. AI is getting into every nook and cranny of the world.
Like a silent invasion. Agriculture, manufacturing, you name it.
Agriculture, that's a good example. I was reading about AI-powered drones and sensors helping farmers in ways we never could before.
Oh, yeah. They can analyze the soil, tell you if a plant's getting sick before you can even see it, optimize water usage, the whole 9 yards.
So it's like taking the gamble out of farming a bit. I mean, so much of it has always been down to luck and the weather.
And the weather's getting less predictable, too, thanks to climate change. But yeah, AI can help with that side of things as well.
What about manufacturing? I feel like robots on assembly lines have been around forever, but AI is taking it to another level.
It's not just replacing manual labor anymore. AI can design the products themselves, figure out the most efficient way to make them. The whole process is becoming smarter.
So less waste, faster production, and stuff we couldn't even dream up before. AI's coming up with it.
Exactly. And then there's retail. This one's sneaky because a lot of it happens behind the scenes, but it affects all of us.
Oh, I know what you mean. Those personalized recommendations you get online. That's AI, figuring out what I might want to buy next.
Yep, using your browsing history, what you've bought before, even demographic data. And then there's the cashierless stores, like Amazon Go.
Just walk in, grab what you need, and walk out. Feels very futuristic.
It's definitely convenient, but yeah, that privacy question looms large over all of it.
For sure. Okay, so we've got farms, factories, and shopping malls all getting the AI treatment. What about entertainment?
Well, think about the special effects in movies. AI is making those more realistic than ever, creating whole environments, characters even, that look and move like the real deal.
So the next blockbuster I see, AI might have had a hand in making it.
Possibly. And it goes beyond just visuals. AI is composing music, writing scripts, analyzing what makes a good story work, all that stuff.
Makes you wonder if AI will be winning Oscars someday.
Maybe, but even if it doesn't reach that level, it's giving human creators new tools, new ways to think about their work. That's exciting.
It is, but with all this talk about potential, we got to be real about the risks too. We touched on the ethical stuff, but what about jobs? Automation's a real concern.
Definitely. As AI gets smarter, it can do more tasks that humans used to do. Some jobs will disappear, no question.
So what do? We can't just let people lose their livelihoods because of technology.
We have to focus on retraining, teaching people new skills that AI can't yet replicate. Things like creativity, critical thinking, solving complex problems.
Makes sense. And maybe new economic models too, to make sure everyone benefits from these changes, not just the folks developing the AI.
Right, that's a whole other conversation. But while we're on the big picture stuff, we gotta talk about AGI, artificial general intelligence.
The holy grail of AI. A machine as smart as a human, or even smarter. Kind of scary, honestly.
Some people think it's inevitable, given enough data and computing power. Others say the human mind is too complex, can't be replicated.
So it's like a giant scientific bet, and we don't know who's going to win.
Exactly. But even without full-blown AGI, Narrow AI is getting crazy good, like DeepSeek's model or OpenAI's operator. Those are doing specific tasks incredibly well.
So we might not have a robot Einstein yet, but we've got AI that can beat us at chess, translate languages, write code, all sorts of things.
And as those narrow AIs get better, it changes how we live and work. Which brings us to another big one, surveillance.
Yeah, AI is changing how we keep things secure, but also how we watch over each other. That's a tricky balance.
It is. On one hand, you've got AI catching criminals, finding missing people, even preventing terrorism.
Yeah, it's good, right? Hard to argue against that.
Mhm.
But then you've got facial recognition everywhere, constant monitoring. The potential for abuse is huge.
And what happens if those systems get hacked or used to target certain groups unfairly? Lots of scary scenarios there.
Feels like we're one step away from a dystopian sci-fi movie sometimes.
We need transparency, strict regulations, and constant oversight to make sure those systems are used responsibly. Otherwise, yeah, it could get very bad very quickly.
All right, one more area to touch on before we get too existential. AI in finance.
Oh, that's a big one. It's changing how we bank, how we invest, even how the stock market itself operates.
I've noticed banks are offering a lot more personalized advice these days. Is that AI too?
Often, yeah. AI can analyze your finances, figure out your risk tolerance, suggest investments that fit your goals, and it can detect fraud way faster than humans, which is good for everyone.
But there's always a flip side, right?
Yeah.
What are the downsides of AI taking over Wall Street?
Bias is a big one. If the AI is trained on bad data, it can perpetuate existing inequalities, like denying loans to certain groups or making bad investments.
So even with something like finance, which seems very numbers-driven, human values still matter. We have to make sure the AI reflects those values.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just make the technology work. We have to think about the consequences, the unintended side effects, and build safeguards from the start.
Sounds like that's a theme we've been hitting on all episode.
Ugh.
Every exciting AI advancement comes with this shadow of potential problems.
It's the nature of the beast, I guess. But on that cheerful note, ready to talk about the really big questions, the future of humanity in an AI world.
Hit me with it. Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground in this AI deep dive.
From the super practical to the kind of terrifying, yeah.
But now it's time to get really big picture.
Mhm.
Where is all this AI stuff taking us? What does the future even look like with all these intelligent machines running around?
Honestly, it feels like we're on a tightrope walk. On one side, there's this incredible potential.
Curing diseases, solving climate change, making life easier, more personalized.
Right. But then on the other side, there's the stuff that keeps me up at night.
Job losses, algorithms making unfair decisions, AI getting used for bad things.
And that's not even getting into the really big questions, like what happens if we do create an AI as smart as a human? What does that mean for us?
It was like a sci-fi movie, but it's becoming less fictional every day.
Exactly. So how do we handle this? How do we make sure this whole AI thing goes well for humanity?
It feels like a huge responsibility, and nobody has all the answers.
We definitely don't. But I think step one is just talking about it openly, honestly, not just the tech people, but everyone.
Because it affects everyone, right? From the way we work to the kind of world our kids grow up in.
And we need to be informed. If we don't understand what AI is capable of, how can we make good decisions about it?
And demanding answers from the companies and governments developing this stuff, transparency is key.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and let this happen to us. We have to actively shape the future of AI.
And that means investing in research too. Not just making the tech better, but studying the social impact, the ethical side of things.
Yeah, like what are the guidelines? What are the red lines we don't cross? We need those conversations happening in OW.
Because once the genie's out of the bottle, it's hard to put it back in.
And it's not just one country's problem either. This needs global cooperation, everyone working together.
Otherwise, it'll be a race to the bottom, each country trying to get ahead without thinking about the consequences.
And the stakes are so high. We're talking about the future of humanity here, not just some new gadgets.
It's kind of overwhelming, honestly. Looking back at all the news today, it feels like we're at a tipping point.
The DeepSeek story really highlights that. A new player coming in, changing the rules, making everyone scramble.
And OpenAI's operator, that shows how fast this stuff is moving from the lab into our lives.
We can't bury our heads in the sand. This is happening whether we like it or not, so we better get involved, try to steer it in the right direction.
And that's what we've tried to do today. Give you the information, the different perspectives so you can start forming your own opinions.
Because this is too important to leave to the experts. Everyone needs to be part of this conversation.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, keep learning, Keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to speak up. The future of AI is ultimately in our hands.
And it's a future worth fighting for, one where this technology helps us, not hurts us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.